What's going on, family? What's going on? It's your brother Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, back with another Freestyle Friday. Freestyle Friday, that's it. Shabbat Shalom. Those who are keeping it now, some keep it after 6. So I'm saying to those who are keeping it after 6, KHM, we don't keep it until sunset. But as long as you're keeping and striving to keep the Most High statute, laws, and commandments, and to keep his Sabbaths, that the scripture says, and turn your foot from doing any evil, all praise to the Most High for that. Right? Okay. Gonna munch on this real quick. A very, very long week. I'm snacking real quick right now. Had a great time in Detroit, Port Huron, between Detroit and Port Huron. Had a great time. Unfortunately, I did not get to see any of y'all. We didn't get enough requests to meet up in Detroit, so we didn't really have anything in Detroit this past weekend. But we will be back in Detroit soon. All right. So if you're in Detroit, we'll be back soon to see y'all, and probably do an event or something out there in Detroit. All right, so see y'all starting questions already. All right. While I'm munching on this, I'm gonna show you all this new next piece right here. That's Heart of a Lion. You see the beads on it. It's like a marble color, white marble and black. High quality beads. Homemade and home brew pendant. Right in the House of Divine. If anybody's interested in a new neck piece, see that? Email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. As far as I know this is being put on the website. So as soon as that link is available, I'll put it in the description below. Or if you email us, we'll send it directly to you, the link directly to you. We'll also say thank you, everybody who supported our keychain pendant. Man, we sold 50 of them joints. About 50 of them. You know what I'm saying? Which is phenomenal. So thank you all for your support. Also, in my last picture that I had, was holding the envelopes up like that. If you ain't see it yet, then go check it out on the post or the community tab on YouTube, or you can also check it out on Instagram and Facebook. And it's funny because somebody got really upset because of that, but I will discuss that in a second. And then we also have now, if y'all are interested, I mean, we've had this for some time. We just sold out, but we got these back. If y'all interested in instead having a smaller version like this as a necklace, you'll see me also have it in that image as well. Here's the bigger version. This is the keychain. Here's a smaller version, and this is the necklace. All right. Now, still getting some hate from people in regards to what this is, what it means, and that's simply because the people who are hating, they just simply don't understand its value, its importance, its historical nature, etc. So there's only but so much that you can share and give to people that they're gonna feel away. It's interesting because also on Facebook recently, I was gonna ignore it, but I'll call it out, right? So as y'all know, and maybe some of y'all don't know, there's a brother called Ankaket or Ankh, the real black atheist, the God killer, pseudo killer. This brother, I've been going back and forth with him since 2014. So we talking almost 11 years. I've been going back and forth with this brother, right? The crazy thing is he was selling some RBG shoes that was made in China, saying that it's going to fund the revolution, but yet he pocketed all the money. And all the sales went to his house note, his car note, him taking his wife out to dinner and all of that. None of it went back to Black liberation. None of it went into any programs or services or any organizations or political parties and affiliations that are designed to alleviate the societal ills of Black people in America. And then he had the nerve to randomly last night make a post about me selling the Silver Scrolls, saying that I'm scamming the community because I'm teaching African Americans that they're ancient Hebrews. Now, you know how ridiculous that sounds? I've never taught anybody that they're an ancient Hebrew. How can you be an ancient Hebrew? All the ancient Hebrews are dead. The word Ivri and the word Hebrew is only mentioned in the literature of the Tanakh. It's not mentioned outside of it. So it is the insider, or it is the protagonists, authors of the text that is using a term to describe something that was mostly internal within the community and to those who were close-knit to the community that understood that these Hebrews are those who crossed over. You know, those coming from the Tigris-Euphrates River and crossing over into the Levant area, what we call the Levantine region, and then from there coming into Kemet, Egypt, and Misraim, right? So Hebrews were known to be those who descended from the one who had crossed over, or those who have crossed over. So this is only going to be in the telling of the narrative of these people. So this is going to be a term that is near and dear to them that they use in the literary narrative in which they're depicting their ancestry and their patriarch who began their people, who covenant with Yah. And that's why you will only find it there. So for me to tell somebody that they're ancient, first of all, ancient denotes somebody that is much older, somebody that goes back into antiquity and before antiquity. Nobody alive today is an ancient Hebrew. I never make that claim. Are there people who descend from what we call Black Jews, which we have documentation for in Western Central Africa? Yes. Are there people whose ancestry may be indigenously African, from the continent of African, that then were mixed in with Black Jews in Western Central Africa and or mixed in the intra-continental slave trade between the northern, what we call North America, and Central and South America? And we had these breeding farms or breeding posts in which fertile women were selected, and they were bred with fertile men, and they create and generated a whole host of descendants who they could not father and could barely mother. And amongst them were the various indigenous tribes and the Black Jews. Yes. We also have what's called crypto Jews. These crypto Jews were Jews by descendancy and Jews in regards to their internal practices, but externally, they practiced the religion of the area in which they lived, whether that was Mohammedanism, which it was called in the 1800s, or Islam, or whether that's the traditional African religious systems. So what I teach is that we are a mixture of all these things. This is why you'll see when I talk about reconstruction, ancient pre-Israelite culture, we don't reconstruct it from the Talmud, the rabbis, and the sages of the, I would say, of the post-Grecian captivity era, but we do it going in reverse from our experiences here, experiences Western Central Africa, and from Western Central Africa all the way back to Northeastern Africa. That's how we do it. And along the way, we have things intermingled within our culture. That's why we are closely knit and closely tied to the traditional African system that you see in Western Central Africa. Because a lot of what ancient pre-Israelite Israelites practice, you'll see amongst these peoples. This is why the acculturation and inculturation happened seamlessly because of cultural diffusion, because there were so many similarities. I did a whole lecture on this. If he would bother to watch anything, he can see why I say what I say. Then it came from that. Then I said, look, Unc, How are you going to tell me about helping Black people when I've done more for Black people in the community than you have? Your name is the Real Black Atheist. You call everything that Black people held near and dear ancestrally pseudo. You call all of the traditional spiritual African systems in Western Central Africa, you call them all pseudo. You called anybody that holds to the understanding of how stones and gems work and the energies behind them, you call that pseudo. You call anybody that identify as a descendant of Black Jews in West Central Africa pseudo. You call Islam pseudo. You call those of us who identify as Black Jews or celebrate Black Judaism as a part of their heritage in America, you call that pseudo. Okay. You call Ifa pseudo, Olanani pseudo. You called anybody that holds there to the Loas pseudo. You call anybody that engages in hoodoo and voodoo or voodoo, you call that pseudo. You call Santeria pseudo. You call anything that Black people may use, like any talismans. Amongst any of these groups that I just mentioned, all of them had talismans, right? To ward off bad spirits, ward off evil energy, because they have the blessings upon them from either an ancestor and or their patron, matron deity. You call that pseudo. You call everything pseudo. When me and him was debating during COVID, he was pushing for us to get the jab, and I was pushing for us to go back to traditional African medicine. We had a whole debate on this, and I was showing him how traditional African medicine and Far Eastern medicine, that we can turn to those to build our immunity naturally as opposed to getting the jab. And this brother was pushing for Black people to go and line up and get the jab. I talked to him about various books and articles that have been written by Black scientists in the medical field in regards to their trust of the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry as it pertains to vaccinations. He says, oh, Onimus was an African slave who was responsible for the inoculation. No, he was not responsible for inoculation. He discovered a way to protect or enhance the immunity against smallpox by means of cowpox. Self-inflicting yourself with cowpox in order to build immunity against smallpox. He did not say, oh, we should deliver it in a syringe and inject it into the body. No, he did it by natural means based on empirical observation. And based on that, he shared that with his slave master. He was not responsible for creating this biopharmaceutical industry that exists today. No, our oppressors, they're responsible for that. Those who are oppressing Black people. Now, did I ever in my life say nobody should never get the vaccine? I've never said that. I never said that. If you don't care about your health, you don't take care of your health, right? And you don't care about a naturopathic means of enhancing your immunity, and you want to get the shortcut to health, if you decide you want to get a vaccine, fine. But if you're healthy and you're engaging and eating right, exercising, getting the proper supplements, etc., then there are other options available to you to enhance your immunity against COVID-19. This is what we've been pushing. We say that you should have a choice. You should have an option. That's what we were saying. We never said nobody should not get a vaccine. But you want us to intertwine ourselves against a medical pharmaceutical industry that has been known to plague African Americans, Black people, Negroes for hundreds of years and use us in the form of experimentation to see what works and what doesn't work. And you want us to go to them and get a jab. That's what he pushes. He says we should leave the old paths that our ancestors have created and pioneered for us to be here today, and which they used to ensure our survival in the hundreds of years in which we were brought over here to the Americas and put into slavery, not just here, but all across the world. They had techniques, they had ancestral practices, they had customs, etc. All these things were responsible for maintaining us in the condition that we are in today, meaning that if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be alive. He wants us to throw out everything, the baby with the bathwater. He just wants us to pursue science and technology, which is fascinating because science and technology can be pursued without rejecting everything else. They're all culturally intertwined, but he's unable to see that. So he says that I'm scamming the people. This is what he's saying. Matter of fact, let me show you the post. Let me see if I can show you the post so you can see this. And the funny thing is, a lot of times when people come for me, you know what I'm saying, other people jump in a post and defend my name. I just come in just simply because if you're going to troll me, then I'm going to troll you responsibly back. It's not a problem. But that's the difference. Like, he's dwindling. His numbers are dwindling in regards to his platform. He's not getting really nothing on any of his posts as far as like hits, engagements, views. He's not getting any of that. He has to reset himself and come back and get at our community, which is fascinating because his community is slightly different from my community, right? So my community cares nothing about somebody called the Real Black Atheist, Unc West. Who in our community cares about him? It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so let me okay, I got it. All right, so anybody, let me say this real quick and I'm gonna get back to this. Give me 1 second. All right. Those of you who are watching who are interested in this pendant, in this necklace, or something similar, or if you have an idea for something that you would like to be customized, or whatever the case would be, but this particular item here, if you're interested in it, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. The link is there in the chat. All right, click that link in the chat if you're interested in that. All right, and then also, well, actually, let me just stop right there. So yeah, so if you're interested in this necklace, and I showed earlier, it's in the chat. If you're interested in the Silver Scrolls necklace pendant, you know, the one that is all the rage, it's crazy. The link for this is in the chat as well. If you want to purchase this, or anybody wants to purchase this, the link is in the chat. Please do so. And the reason why I say please do so is because, again, this is a replica of something that's historically applicable to the Israelites, going back to at least 600 BCE. And this is before exile. And it's a talisman that was worn, rolled up in a silver scroll, rolled up and placed in an amulet as a means to ward off evil spirits, and keep the blessings of Yah upon the wearer. Okay. So yeah, please purchase that, because I've had Christian apologists, I've had Israelites saying, oh, that's idolatry. Oh, that's Hotepish. Then I have people from the Hotepish community, I would say a degenerate from the Hotepish community, Ankaket, right? Unc West, the Real Black Atheist, say that that's not going to do anything, which is fascinating, because even people in his comments that's not friends of mine, friends of himself, say, what are you talking about? This is something that is historically accurate. It's something that our people been doing, like, for a long time. But again, he dismisses it, and he cares not about it, because he cares nothing about history. He cares nothing about culture. He cares nothing about these things. And shout out to the sister Tiffany L. French, because she was in there batting hard. You know what I'm saying, what's your problem? Why are you going crazy? But he's not going to listen. He needs to actually get his grammar together. His grammar is terrible. First and foremost, his grammar is terrible. But yeah, let me go ahead and share this with y'all real quick. This is hilarious, man. And again, somebody tagged me in it. And the brother, Mindika Mali used to go by JJ. What's that? 2000? I think that's. Forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, JJ. But he jumped on there and said, "Hey, I got the Lions Den. Let me set up a debate, whatever the case may be." Never responded. So it's just fascinating to me that people come to be disruptive, to be divisive, just to call everything pseudo and have nothing to build. Brother on there that was talking about, oh yeah, you are. Let's just read it. He says, "Divine suspect, Ron Shields, divine suspect." So that's what him and his crew call me, which is funny, because I'm like, okay, I have tons of names for him, but I reserved it. I wanted to be professional and kind of, bang back in a mature fashion. And he's supposed to be an elder, and this is Him talking. Scamming African Americans as if they were real ancient Hebrews. Now, I just went over that and told you that we're not real ancient Hebrews. We're descendants of Israelites, aka Black Jews, which is historically identified and historically categorized by experts in what we call African Jewry that have acknowledged this, are selling them silver scroll blessing pendants. Save y'all money, no blessings from the Middle East. Now, the funny thing is this, right? Now, this is the real Black atheist, right? This is somebody who calls himself Ankh West. Now, Ankh, as we know, comes from ancient Kemet or Misraim. You know what an Ankh was? A talisman. Yo, you cannot make this stuff up, bruh. You cannot make this up, bruh. You can't make it up. The Ankh represented life, and the one who bore the Ankh was said to have good health, good life, and to be prosperous. That's what the Ankh is. It's a talisman. But that's in your name. But then you say that, okay, so that's the first thing. That's the first thing. I said, your name is Ankh. You can't prove you're from an ancient Kemetite or an ancient Egyptian. You can't prove that. But you call yourself Ankh. And your name itself implies a talisman, an object, a trinket. That is all over the place in regards to ancient Kemet, right? Even Hezekiah had it in his ring. That's okay. I'm just saying. The irony is hilarious. But again, when your numbers are dwindling, you have to come and attack me or my community so that you can get attention. Okay. All right. Okay. So again, make sure y'all get your talismans. We're going to keep going into this. He says, no blessings from the Middle East. Now, I'm going to show you something ironic. So what I try to do with these guys is I try to get them to hold the stance. So with him, your name is Ankh. I want you to defend ancient Kemet, okay? Because he even called ancient Kemet pseudo. I got him on camera. He called ancient Kemet pseudo. That's what he said. He said they were pseudo. So again, you can't even trust these guys because they don't even hold a position, right? They just want to attack you, interrogate you, cross examine you. But I would get him to hold a position to defend ancient Kemet. He says, no blessings from the Middle East. Let me show y'all a resource. Listen, bro, I'm ready for this. This is nothing. Nothing. It's nothing. Again, I wish that he would take the debate that was set up. I wish he would. But let me show y'all something. Yeah, my trick bag is crazy. My bag is deep. I'm ready for whatever y'all want to bring this way. I'm ready for it. I'm going to show you all the talismans. But before I show you all of that, he said, no blessings from the Middle East. Let me show y'all something real quick. This is something fun. You can read this. But it's on a Patreon. It's on Patreon. Let me bring it up. It's on the Patreon. Let me show it to y'all real quick. Hold on. There we go. All right, you see this book? Early Northwest Semitic serpent spells in the pyramid text. The ancient Egyptians, the ancient people from Kemet, had a serious serpent problem or snake problem. I'll say snake. Serpent is more of a literary term, right? They had a really bad snake problem. And they could not find a remedy. They did not have an indigenous spell for it. But they saw how the ancient Semitic peoples handled snakes and had spells for snakes. These are spells now. He said, no blessings, right? The ancient people from Kemet adopted Semitic serpent spells so they can have protection against snake bite. Yo. Hebrew ethics, it was a political affiliation. That's what he was showing in there, right? By having an Ankh and representing life, right? And remember, Hezekiah was one of the most righteous kings on the face of the planet, according to the Most High. We went over that, I think, the last live stream. So why is the ancient Kemetic peoples adopting Semitic serpent spells if no blessings come from the Middle East? Now, that term Middle East, as we know, is a political term. It's a geographical term, a modern geographical term. That term did not exist during the ancient times. I'm saying ancient times on a Bronze Age period. No such thing as a Middle East. Iron Age, no such thing as a Middle East. No such thing. But what I want you to know is not only did they adopt serpent spells, they also adopted other items from the Semitic peoples. I got a whole book series on it. See, what Ankh doesn't understand is that not only do I read, which he has a problem doing, and I can write a little bit better than him, but I also go to these conferences like in person, and I speak to experts in this field. And I ask them, where can I get this source? Where can I get that source? So not only do my own independent research, and I'm able to get this. So this is from my own independent research that I found this resource and I purchased it. But what I'm simply saying is I'm around experts in the field. I invited this Negro twice to come with me to the ARCE, the American Research Center in Egypt. This is where all the world-renowned top Egyptologists come to a conference every year, and it's a society that they're part of every year to talk about all things Egypt. Everything new, innovative in Egypt, anything that's novel, you know what I'm saying? People sometimes present their dissertations that they then want to get critiqued. They have experts there that seek it. He's never been in the field at any one of these things. Now, I'm going to shout out some people on his team. They bad with that Mezuzah. They bad with ancient Kemetic history. They bad. A lot of them apologists as well. Apologists have a bias to a certain extent. But Ankh is the one that called me out. Now, I have almost 10 years of history with Ankh. Right? Up until now, about 10 years worth of history. When I first came into this conscious community, I went to about 2 or 3 of his lectures back in 2014. 2014, 2015, maybe 3 or 4 of his lectures, right? I came out, I heard what he had to say. I participated a few times. I purchased some merchandise. Some items he was selling, I purchased them. Some of them had Ankhs on it. Anyway, and then you'll see a video. I forgot what year it was. Maybe 2016. I think it's 2016. You'll see a video of me and him sitting down in the park talking and chatting. And right after that video, I purchased two or 3 pairs of the shoes he was selling that was made in China. The RBG shoes where the funds went in his pocket. So the funds for these, you know what the money for these went that we got receipts on? People that unfortunately could not pay bills. People that needed help and assistance, going towards paying for free services that we offer health-wise and credit repair-wise for people who otherwise cannot afford it. These funds get allocated to people in the community that need it. They do. When we have our chapter launches, we give free food. We feed people that come in and we don't care who you are. Come in and you eat at the very least. That's where these funds go to. You see what we talk about at the chapter launches? Real community building. See, we don't play games with this, right? This actually goes to a cause. And also, I actually work. I have a job. So I try to ensure that I'm always working because I never want to fleece the people. But you got a lot of scammers that do that. They fleece the people. They give you tons and tons of classes, tons and tons of courses, sell you tons and tons of items and products because it's going in their pocket. Just ask them, hey, let me see the books. Let me see where my funds are going. They're not going to show you nothing. So if you say there's no blessings coming from the Middle East, and when he says Middle East, he's talking about the Levantine region, then why did the ancient Kemetic peoples adopt serpent spells? Why did they steal technology from the Hekasat or Kelset or the Hyksos peoples? Why did they steal their technology in order to be a world power in the new kingdom? I have a whole list. There's a book, 2 books. Matter of fact, let me show you one of the books. Come on, man. I'm the wrong one and the right one to go through this with. Let me show you another book. Watch this. I want him to see this. Okay? We got to go through some stuff, bro. We got to go through some stuff. All right, here we go. I don't know what happened to our view account. We just dropped 25 people. I don't know what just happened. Let me share this. Maybe some of y'all in here from Kemet, that community, the real Black atheist community. Maybe some of y'all spying on behalf of Conquest. I don't know. But we had 25 people in there and they just dropped. But let's go into some more information. We just trying to deal with information, right? This is why you don't throw stones when you live in a glass house. Here's a book here. Egypt in the Avant, International Journal for Egyptian Archaeology and Related Disciplines. This is from 2009. And this is a great resource that goes into details in regards to what we call acculturation and cultural diffusion. But see, this is not stuff that he reads. He doesn't care about stuff like this. Also, if we look into, let me go, hold on. If we look into Avaris, right? And I'm going to show you how Egyptians also imported pottery from what he calls the ancient Near East. Pottery had these symbols on them as well. Some of them also meant blessings. But I digress. This is one of many sources. I digress. I just want to hold the cards up like this and just wait. Hopefully we can sit and talk. We can discuss this. I can show you how the Kushites culturally appropriated the Egyptians when they came into power in the 25th dynasty, after the 25th dynasty. How the Memphite stele, where the Memphite theology comes from, how they took a deity, a patron deity from the Egyptians and donned it for themselves. How the Kushites became Egyptian. Same thing with the Hyksos. They became Egyptian. Cultural appropriation was something that was always occurring. Nobody saw it as treason or a crime. Ramses II named his daughter, gave his daughter a Semitic name, and then smashed his daughter and had children by her. See, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about that you got to defend. You're saying no blessings come from the Middle East, but yet the Egyptians thought otherwise. What do we do with that information? If you want these books and more, go to www.patreon.com/divineprospect. We have a litany, plethora of resources on there that deal with ancient Kemet and the ancient Levant and their close-knit relationships of acculturation, cultural diffusion, and enculturation. Okay? So it's fascinating when I see that. All right. So I'm gonna let up off his neck for now. And I'm gonna wait and see if he takes the debate, because the debate was offered to him to have the discussion, and he simply did not respond to it. Hey, let's finish this up. I'm gonna show this. Let me finish this up real quick, and we can go into our usual show. All right. Okay. Save your money. No blessing from the Middle East. Now, there's nobody in my community that watches this guy, like that follows him religiously, that goes to him for advice, for knowledge, for information. This is invisible to my community, right? Our community, Israelite community. Nobody's going to see this. But because I was tagged on it, I said, oh, okay. I see a couple of brothers and sisters on here from our community that have seen it. Right? And this is my sister right here, good sister, Tiffany L. French. Ron knows more about African history than you, very much African-centered than you are. I didn't tell her to write that. She went on there and she just shared the truth. Then we have this guy here, Kenyante, I think that's his name, Scarsborough, saying that nigga scamming using religion. He's not a Pan-Africanist. He's not involved in revolutionary organizing. Only political organizations have the power to bring liberation, not religion. This ish ain't about content, Ron Shields. It's about joining political organizations. So this brother has a linear, one-track mind to think that the only way that liberation can come for our people is through political organizations. So, brother, if that's the case, then why are we not liberated then? Liberation and revolution is progressive. It works in stages and phases over time. And there's no one method to bring it about if you study your history. That's what he's saying. And he says, not religion. Yo, I went on Sonetta last year, and I talked about our March on the UN lecture conference that we had. And I did it specifically on Sonetta's platform because I wanted to reach out to that community as well. And one person from that community showed up. One person from his community showed up. I didn't see Ankh there. I didn't get no support from him. That was not about religion at all. That was about true liberation. And one of many approaches in order for us to achieve liberation. I didn't see none of these organizations that he's talking about there to come and support. None of them are there. So me and him was going back and forth. I said, here comes Ankh West out the blue looking for new content instead of focusing on creating his own. Ankh, how you come out the woodwork with this? You got my number. Plus, we in the same city. We could have discussed this first. How am I scamming by selling something that people are actually able to buy and understand the significance of? Your name is Ankh, and you ain't even from the ancient Kemetic peoples, but I'm not saying anything about that. Surely he picked the wrong Hebrew to mess with. My brother, roll out the shotgun. No, not the shotgun. No. I rolled out the nuclear bomb. Well, I haven't done that yet. I'll just say I rolled out the M50. Let's do 50 cal. Just took out the 50 cal for now. All right. And Mika, shout out to Sister Mika, said just set up a debate. It just mysteriously disappeared after he made this. He said this is probably the crowd that followed Dr. Yaki. I didn't even see that comment. Let me go ahead and love that comment, bro. Brian said the GED scientist, the self-proclaimed standard in the community, expert in many fields, the only source reader that reads the source correctly. Let's give a standing ovation. Again, sarcasm against Ankh. Ankh is being killed. You was selling shoes with African logos on it, but possibly made in China. Just saying. It's funny because blessing pendants or trinkets of symbolism. I think West is forcing it to be a talisman, which is a falsely claim to hold magical power. Hopefully Ron's sales increase from the promotion. But Ron even fails to see that the promotion Ankh has already given him. And I said, no, I see it, brother. I see what he's done. I understand. These are people on his friends list getting at him. Mosai said, touch not my anointed. That's what Yah says. I didn't write that. I didn't anoint myself for this. I didn't ask to do this. You're not ready for Ron Shields. He's saying 9-syllable words, sir. Mandinka Mali. This is JJ 2000. 9,000. I'm saying 2,000. 9,000. So he's getting on him as well. And he's saying, look, we got a platform, right? Let's just jump on the platform. Septopia Black says suspect and just laughing. Like, what are you trying to say by that? Sean West came. I don't know what Sean. He's saying 12 tribe crap been debunked years ago. But nobody's saying anything about the 12 tribes. So he's kind of removed from the conversation. Rob Noxious Stream says internet is just another scam. Richardson agreed with Ankh. The only person I really see agree with Ankh. And then my brother G. Rod Blackburn says, what a piece of trash. Damn grown kids. Ron Shields, I need to get one of those from you. Please tell me he's helping you through free marketing. So yeah, he definitely has. I have 4 more sales from people on his friends list. And those same people asked about how to get involved in helping the Black community after seeing my videos on this post. I posted at least 10 videos on this post about Black liberation. And I'm waiting for him to post something about what he's doing in the field for Black liberation. And he has not responded. He just made the post, didn't respond. This is how I knew he was just baiting people in because he had to be relevant again. So now there's nothing I need to say about this because my sales have increased. So he did help with the promotion, and I do appreciate him for that. We sold over 50 of these items. Over 50 of these items. And as we've been speaking, I got 2 more sales. So him saying all of this is for what? Nobody goes to an Ankh West. His brother don't have a degree in nothing. He could barely read. When you see him read, he reading mad slow, remedial, right? He's typing. He doesn't have punctuations. He doesn't have proper syntax or grammar. Like, this is an elder, somebody that's, I think he's at least 10, 12 years older than me. And he wants to come and shame me. And I'm like, bro, okay, let's have a conversation about it. If you have an issue, or you can call me. We in the same city, bro. I'm in Atlanta. You on the outskirts of Atlanta. We can come sit down and talk. We can record it too. But you didn't respond. So this is the criticism that we have to face when we try to get back to our culture. And that's the issue. When we get back to our culture. Again, in this post, nothing here about you're an ancient Hebrew. Somebody could just be a fan of the ancient Near East and want to get one of these for historical purposes, right? Because they like history, right? And like items, replicas. They could just be a field of interest for them. Nothing here about ancient Hebrews in my post at all. He dug this up from May 19th. I made several posts since then about this. So this is fascinating to me. And he also did it on his phone too. So he captured on his phone too. So he may have some issue with his computer or something like that. He captured on his phone too. So all I'm here to say is Ankh West is not a source of anybody for anything. Okay? Because he wouldn't say something stupid like that and try to defend Kemet with a name for Ankh, which is a talisman in itself. Fascinating. Fascinating stuff. So I'm going to fall back. Let me get back on my good behavior. Get the swag right again so we can serve the people. All praise to the Most High. All right, yo. So let me go ahead and the link. All right, brother. I'm gonna drop the links in the chat for you. They're also in the description below. So I'm gonna say this. My mods, I have about 3 or 4 mods in there. Can y'all copy and paste the link in the chat for both the keychain pendant and the necklace? All right, copy and paste them in the chat. And also, this is made from a Black-owned business. This is my Isha made this. Okay, she made this from her business, Life Out Loud Boutique and Accessories. She made this in-house. I see her make it from scratch. Okay, so at the very least, when you buy these items, you're supporting a Black business. This is from KHM. This is from Life Out Loud Boutique and Accessories. So this is stuff that we put boots to the ground to get either customized and made and or done it from scratch. He also got shoes from the gas footwear. It wasn't even his own shoes. He got shoes from somebody else and resold that person's shoes. He didn't create nothing with his own hands. He talks about science and technology. What science and technology have you created? I work in the IT industry, brother. I deal with science and technology all the time. I've wrote manual scripts, programming that I've created from out of my IP that help further Fortune 500 companies that I've worked with. I've worked in programs where we got troubled youth and we taught them IT skills so they can take that frustration, that anger, and all that bottled up emotion that is spilling and overflowing because there's no outlets for them in the hood. They took all the trade schools out. They took the PALs out. They took all the after school programs out. And now these ninjas got no outlet to do nothing. We transmute that energy into something that is going to take them to the future, which is IT. We show them how to script, how to program, how to maintain architecture. We tell them how to cybersecurity. We teach them all of these things. Since I've been delving in these programs for the past 9 years, so I've been in IT for at least I've been in IT for at least 18 years. I've been in IT. Almost 2 dimes. 20 years I've been in IT. And out of that time period, and delving in these programs, teaching in these programs, we've helped at least 20-something youth who are troubled, who could have been out there robbing you, mugging you, being a YN, sticking you up, shooting shots, and you getting hit by a stray bullet. We took at least 20 of them knuckleheads off the street, and we transformed them through IT. That's real science and technology for the Black community. But show me what you've done, huh? I got footage of this. Where's your stuff at? I was in the streets on the front line when brothers and sisters get shot and killed. With all types of political organizations, working together with them, doing powwows, sit-downs, round tables. Some of it is on YouTube. Where you at in these streets, bro? So it looks like the Israelites are doing more work than you. Oh, okay. Appreciate that. Yes. Also, okay, you got the necklace up there. You got everything. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mons. But Mons is always on point. So that's why I said you don't throw stones in a glass house. And you don't throw punches when you got a glass jaw. You throwing some weak punches to a fighter whose chin has been tested, and you got a glass jaw. How'd that work? You remember that Mike Tyson Punch-Out video game? They had a character in there called Glass Joe. Yeah, that's And a lot of times when me and him go back and forth, he got a whole crew with him, and I'm by myself. He don't want to have a one-on-one. That's why he takes these little pot shots here and there and says little stuff here. And to do it on a neutral platform, when he don't got Sanetta helping him out, is all those conversations I had with Sanetta helped him out, dragged him out of there several occasions. You're getting whooped on. They don't want the smoke. So why are you stirring it up? Go liberate Black people. Talking about another Black man is not liberating Black people. Talking about other Black groups is not liberating Black people. We got a whole plan. We got a whole playlist. I lay out the plan on how Black liberation can come about. Where's yours at? Where's your 5, 7, 9-step program that's going to get Black people out of their condition? Okay. Oh, I like that. That must be a Texas thing. So I ain't never heard that up north. All right. So Dominic Duelos, yes, I do have a lesson on fringes. All you got to do is type in, I guess, fringes in the search bar. When you go on this channel, there's going to be a search option. You click the search and you can type in fringes and it'll show up. You can get that. Matter of fact, one of my mods can just do a quick YouTube search of fringes. You'll see that I have several live streams on it, and they'll post it in there for you. All right. So let me go back up. Let's just get back to our show, man. We have some donations. Thank you so much. I am Zeus. Can you give us a quick breakdown of what happened to the great multitude? So I am Zeus. Are you referring to the Arev Rav, the mixed multitude that came out in the Exodus with the Israelites? Are you referring to them? Because all of them did not get wiped out. Some of them did. All of them did not. Because we see, at least amongst them, we have the Midianites that settled with Judah in the book of Judges. So they were part of that mixed multitude. We had Midianites that was in Egypt. We had Cushites that was in Egypt. Possible Libyans in Egypt. Why? Because when we study the archaeology of the Egyptian site called the Varas, and this is what Manfred Bietek comes in, the sole Austrian archaeologist and his team responsible for doing the digs and excavations there, you'll see that it was a multi-ethnic, multicultural area. So you had Semites there, Libyans, Cushites, and ancient Egyptians there. So this mixed multitude would have consisted of all of these groups. And we see that in Deuteronomy chapter 29 that they also had an opportunity to covet in with Yah. But unfortunately, they're still second-class citizens because there are laws that apply to them that don't apply to the Israelites. So being a second-class citizen does not mean you get treated wrongly, that there's injustice supposed to be towards you. Yah says for us to look out for the welfare of the stranger, the afflicted, the widows, the orphans, and the poor. Look after their welfare. So if you're referring to the mixed multitude, let me know. Okay. All right. Who went to apologize in advance? I turned up on you just a tad bit in the DMs. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's cool, brother. But I got tough skin. You my brother. Despite what you say, you're still gonna be my brother. All right. I'm gonna go check it out. But you're still my brother, who I'm gonna hold you down. We're gonna get together. And whatever we need to do, work together, we'll do it, brother. I've just been very busy over the past couple of weeks. I have 1 week to breathe, which this week coming up, and the things may get busy again after that. But I'll catch up with you probably sometime next week. All right. You got my jack. You can call me. All right. All right. That's my brother, KHM, to the end. All right. So give a couple of shout outs. Shout out to Panther Dan Noir. Shalom. Get Wise. Shalom. Morris Green. Shalom. Danielle Ben Kohani. Shalom. You Love Yah. Shalom. Kirubel. Shalom. Shalom, Kirubel. What's going on, brother? Long time no speak. Abdiel. Shalom. Volta. Shalom. Volta says Sabbath is an old Egyptian custom. Okay, brother. No problem. James Lockhart. Shalom. Kevin Williams. Is the wall of partition in Ephesians 2 between the house of Israel and the house of Judah, or between Israel and the rest of the nations? It's between Israel, including the house of Judah, and the rest of the nation. That's the wall of partition. The wall of partition is talking about Israel and nations. That was Yah's intention for Israel and the nations to be on the same accord. Obviously, with Israel at the head. But a wall of partition has been brought up, whether it's by the nations themselves separating themselves from Israel, or whether it's Israel themselves, their hegemony, right, their upper class, separating themselves from the rest of the Gentile nations. Paul was saying that in Yeshua, Bar Yosef, or Yahushua HaMashiach, that he broke down that wall of partition, and his job is to bring all those righteous remnant from both Israel and the nations together. Israel's at the head, and they're at the tail. But prior, there's been a wall of partition that separated Jews from Gentiles. Yah did not intend for this to happen. When you read Isaiah chapter 56, he did not intend for this to happen. Isaiah chapter 19, when he's going to bring Egypt and he's going to bring Assyria along with the Israelites together. And that doesn't mean the whole nations. He's picking out remnants from these nations that cleave unto Israel. That's the key thing. They got to cleave unto Israel. This is why when Paul is speaking, Paul is a Benjamite. He's a Jew. Anybody that hears his teachings is cleaving unto Israel. Anybody that hears Yeshua Bar Yosef's teaching that's not from the house of Israel, because his ministry was bringing the gospel to his people. But anybody outside of that hears his word and cleaves unto him, they're still cleaving unto Israel. Christians, y'all still cleaving unto Israel, but you're cleaving unto Yeshua. Y'all still cleaving unto Israel. There's no salvation outside of Israel. Whether it's the patron deity of Israel, the people of Israel, or individuals amongst Israel like Yeshua Bar Yosef. Either way, you got to come through Israel for salvation. Because that God that they have, that power over them, he says that that's his people. Israel is his servants. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 55, that they're his servants. Numbers chapter 6, last verse, they should bear my name. Israel. That's his people forever. That's their patron deity. No other nation's patron deity. That's their patron deity. But because the other nations, the gods that the other nations were given, according to Psalm 82, were supposed to plead the case for the poor, the weak, the needy, the oppressed, supposed to deal with injustice. They didn't do that. So the psalmist says, Yah, inherit the nations. Yah says, I'm going to go inherit the nations. Now he's taking the nations back. We said, what do you mean nations? No, not the nations in total, but the remnant from the nations that's cleaving unto Israel and hearken unto the voice and obey the commandments of Yah. Those are the ones that he's pulling out and gathering up. So that's what the text is talking about historically. I know some Israelites saying, no, it's about the house of Judah and house of Israel. That's not the proper reading of that. That's not what Paul's talking about at all. Shout out to Raphael, Shalom, Kevin Williams. And can you explain the strangers in Deuteronomy 29:11, Exodus 12, and Ezekiel 47:22? Yes, those strangers are all Gentiles. None of those strangers are Israelites. They're all Gentiles. Shout out to Ira Ammons, Shalom, Abdiel. Would playing sports on Shabbat be okay if giving worship to Yah before you participate in sport? Yes. But what I would say is, whatever you do, just as long as it has nothing to do with your servile work, your civil duties. If it has nothing to do with your civil duties, there's no transactions being done unless it's an emergency, right? If none of those things are occurring and you've given Yah his worship the majority of the day, then there's nothing wrong with you enjoying your Shabbat. It's a day that you're resting from your labor. So if one of the things of rest for you is something recreational with your family, with your kids, that's fine. You got to give Yah his due first and make sure that he's at the head of what you're doing. And given that, even in the method of playing sports, you have an opportunity to bring Yah up to others. Do good on the Sabbath. If playing those sports is going to be something good towards your family and for others by extension, then Yah says it's permissible. But if you don't acknowledge Yah on the day and you just sports the entire day, the Sabbath, then there's nothing that hollows out the Sabbath. It gives it no value. So recreation can be done, but you must acknowledge Yah first. So yes, Abdiel, you're correct, my brother. Shout out to Lin in the building. Truth, more truth. Shalom. Emmanuel. Shalom. Judah, Israel. Shalom. Hebrew Ethics. Shalom. Jonathan, David. Shalom. Big Chief Prince Vision. Shalom. Feed the Spirit. Shalom. Yashar Napash. Shalom. Yaakov. When you be, let me see. When will you be doing an updated video on who Esau is today? Yo, ever since that was brought up, was that the last live stream before? I've gotten so many people ask me about this. Y'all just opened up a whole rabbit hole. Now I gotta go make another 95 slide presentation on it. So I said I'd consider it, right? Or I'll probably do like a shortened version. So meaning that I won't go back over the things that still hold true from that previous lecture. I'll probably just update it with maybe 30 plus slides on new information or information that needs to be overwritten from that previous lecture. But I'll work on that. The demand is still high, then I'll work on that. All right. Let me see. So this is my brother says, Shalom, Brother Divine, and a blessed afternoon to you and your family. Just a shout out letting you know that I'm still waiting on my Silver Scroll pen. Yes. So I did a post where I showed me holding all these envelopes. So I sent out the second batch. So that second batch, y'all should get it by the end of next week. All right. So thank you for your patience and your patrons' support. We had so many orders, so I had to release them in batches because I sold out a whole batch of them. I had to get another batch of them made, and then I was able to send that second batch out. So they were sent out this morning, so they should be there less than a week from now, right? So you should get them at least by next week. Okay, so I appreciate the support. All right, shout out to my Isha in the chat. Sincerely, Cherie. Shalom. Let's see. Andrew says, I'm about to get the Black Jew course on Patreon. I'm ready to learn and defend us being Jews on a scholastic level. Thank you, brother. No problem. Hey, and those of you don't know what he's talking about on the Patreon, there's a category called collections. And I created a collection called Black Jews. And in there, I have tons of primary resources on Black Jews in West and Central Africa, right? And how they ended up in the Americas. And or by being crypto Jews, have hidden themselves out of you and gave you real life examples of that. A person, an actual scholar working on the Timbuktu library and discovering from the records there that he was an actual Jew. And he looked black as silk. You know what I'm saying? So it's very fascinating when you go into that history. But I have a whole collection there that goes into Black Jews in Western Central Africa and in East Africa too. Right. So yeah, if y'all interested in getting that same resource, it's on the Patreon. You can purchase the collection. It's all there. All right. All right. My brother Zen07, Kumara, Shalom, Damon Williamson, Shalom. What's going on? All right, I answered this question for you already, Hebrew ethics, and I explained that. There's a good resource in that. It's on the Patreon. You can just type in Hezekiah and it'll come up on the Patreon. My brother Simply Saved, Yaoga. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Looking forward to receiving my keychain. They now already purchased 2 back when Divine first offered them a year or 2 ago. And you getting more. All praise to the Most High. Thank you for your support, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Right? I don't like begging. Oh, please give me money. Donate to me. I need money. No, I prefer to give you an ROI. Like you're investing in the ministry, and we're either creating services so that way you can take advantage of them for free, and or we are selling products that are relevant to our culture. Right? So these are things we're giving you immediately for your investment in the ministry. Okay, so we're not just begging you for donation. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. The link is in the chat below, but we'd rather give you something in exchange for your investment. All right. All right, let's see. Kapash, he says, Shabbat Shalom. What nation would the Hyksos be? I don't know. They would be part of the Canaanite peoples, all the way from North Syria to where historical Canaan is at. That's who they would be. Right. So what nation? It would be a conglomerate of nations. It wouldn't be one single nation that made up the Hyksos. But the Hyksos are not the Israelites. Anybody that says otherwise, I would love to have a discussion with you on that. One second. All right, let's finish our roll call. Rumi Dia, Ron kicking the Shabbati Karate. Praise Yah and thank you, Yeshua. All praises. Shout out to my brother Aishu Code in the building. Dominic Doulos, Jordan's Cadet. What's going on, King? It's my brother right there. Good brother. Any suggested material on Patreon that breaks down the Tiknei Soferim? Yes. All you gotta do is type that in the Patreon. It'll show up. And if you can't find it, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. All right. Okay. Shout out to Love is the Way. Shalom. Dwayne Burton. Shalom. Let's see. Unknown L. Shalom. Hey, Unknown L. I called you the other day, brother. I left the message. And your wife called back accidentally. And I told her to give you the message. So if you have availability next week, book another session and let's get together. All right. Because I would love to talk to you and see what's going on, brother. Okay. All right. Good brother right there. All right. Let's see. Hebrew Nabi Institute. Do you ship to Canada? Yes, we ship to Canada. Yep. We ship to Canada. So if y'all in Toronto, if y'all in other places in Canada, we do ship to Canada. All provinces in Canada. All right. Yes. Glad you enjoyed that collection as well. And if you're part of the Patreon, you can also access that collection as well. All right. Shout out to Yash Chosen. Shalom. My sister Ashaya Yasharala. Shalom. I think we got everybody. Okay, cool. All right. The numbers went back up. All right. So we weeded out all those people that was here to troll on behalf of the real Black Atheists. We got them out the way. And our real people showed up. All praises. All right. Okay. So let's continue on. Let me see. Shout out to Andre Waivers. Shalom. I think I almost missed you, but I got it, my brother. We just got 6 more sales. Yo, all praises. Our people on this channel, and again, this is what we teach, and this is how I know the people who criticize us and say, oh, you're religious and all sort of stuff, they don't watch the content. That's like somebody seeing the cover of a book, reading a summary of the book on the back, but have no clue what the content is. No clue. Or They see a book that's in a genre of other books in the library or the bookstore, and they superimpose the stereotypes of that genre onto individual books in that genre. This is the fallacies that people commit because they simply want to be divisive. They simply do not want to take the time to understand. If you're going to call somebody or something out, at least have some mechanical knowledge and some underpinning understanding of what it is. Like, know the content and the context. Right? You're just lumping everything together. That's called hasty generalization, and it's a logical fallacy. They thrive off of logical fallacies. So we're here to remove those fallacies and get straight to the truth. All right. No problem, brother. It's okay. I ain't going nowhere. I'm here to serve y'all. So just holler at me. All right. Shalom to you as well. Love is the way. Shalom, shalom. All right. Let me see. Okay. Any questions? Let me see. Any questions? All right. Here. Are the strangers in Ezekiel 47:22 second-class citizens? All right. Let's take a look at that. Ezekiel 47:22. All right. So as you know, we always deal with the context. So we're going to start with the context. Let me share the screen. All right. And it says, thus saith the Lord God, this is the boundary by which you shall divide the land for inheritance amongst the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions, and you shall divide equally what I swore to give to your fathers. This land shall fall to you as your inheritance. This shall be the boundary of the land on the north side, from the great sea by the way of Hethlon to Lebo Hamath and to Zadad, Barothath, Sivrim, which lies on the border between Damascus and Hamath, as far as Hazer Chatakon, which is on the border of Horon. So the boundary shall run from the sea to Hazar Inan, which is on the northern border of Damascus, with the border of Hamath to the north. This shall be the north side. On the east side, the boundary shall run between Haran and Damascus, along the Jordan between Gilead and the land of Israel, to the eastern sea and as far as Tamar. This shall be the east side. On the south side, it shall run from Tamar as far as the waters of Meribah, Kadesh. From there, along the brook of Egypt to the great sea, this shall be the south side. And on the west side, the great sea shall be the boundary to a point opposite of Lebo Hamath. This shall be the west side. West side? Yeah, I know it's corny, but west side. Anyway, so you shall divide this land among you according to the tribes of Israel. You shall allot it as an inheritance for yourselves and for the sojourners who reside among you and have had children among you. They shall be to you as native-born children of Israel. With you they shall be allotted inheritance amongst the tribes of Israel. And whatever tribe the sojourner resides, there you shall assign him his inheritance, declared the Most High Yah. So let's deal with this. And I say this all the time. We have people in the Israelite community that say that there will be no Gentiles, meaning ethnic Gentiles, those who are not from the tribe of the northern tribe or the southern tribes, that will make it into the millennial reign, that will make it into the kingdom. And I say that is incorrect. Okay. So what we see here is a prophecy about something going forward in the future. And I always say that if a sojourner resides amongst Israel, sojourner cleaves unto Israel, a sojourner decides to hold to the covenant of Israel with their patron deity, then they will have an inheritance. This is not talking about Israelites. This is not talking about the house of Judah or the house of Israel. These are talking about sojourners, strangers. They also will have an inheritance amongst Israel. And there's ways that they can get it. They can buy land, or they can be in the house of a Hebrew, and the Hebrew master can give it to that servant if he so decides. So whoever they cleave to, if you say, oh, there's only 12 gates. There's only 12 gates to the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's it. What is strangers going to be at? Where the Jews, Gentiles going to be at? Well, their inheritance is going to be with whatever tribe they cleave to. So if they cleave to Judah, that's the gate they're going through. If they cleave to Benjamin, that's the gate they go through. Cleave to Asher, Naphtali, Ephraim, that's the gate they're going to go through. That's where they're going to get the inheritance at. Whether by being a servant or one who's able to purchase land and passing it down. These are going to be the righteous remnant from the Gentile nations that cleave unto Israel, cleave unto the covenant, and cleave unto Yah. And Yeshua is also bringing some of them in as well. So when they cleave unto him, they're going through the gate of Judah. That's what the text, I didn't write this. But Dominic, that's exactly what the text says. So I'm not one of those Israelites that say, oh, only all the Gentiles, all the strangers, or only the northern tribes. I don't say that. That's not my position. The text says otherwise. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me see. What do you think the writer of Luke in Acts 28, 1-10, never mentions Paul sharing the gospel with the folks he was on the island with when they were shipwrecked? All right, let's go there. It's Acts chapter 28, verses 1. Right? After we were brought safely through, we then learned that the island was called Malta. Oh, wait, am I sharing? Let me see if I'm sharing it. Yes, I am. Okay, cool. Let me remove this real quick. All right. The native people showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and welcomed us all because it had begun to rain and was cold. When Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and put them on the fire, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. When the native people saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, no doubt this man is a murderer. Though he escaped from the sea, justice, see this right here? This was a deity. And we see similar deities like that in the Tanakh as well. Like fortune is also a god, right? Gad means fortune, but is also personified as a god. So these are very superstitious religious people. They personify justice as a deity. Has not allowed him to live. He, however, shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. They were waiting for him to swell up or suddenly fall down dead. But when they had waited a long time and saw no misfortune come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. See that? Verse 7. Now in the neighborhood of that place were lands belonging to the chief man of the island named Publius, who received us and entertained us hospitably for 3 days. It happened that the father Publius lay sick with fever and dysentery. And Paul visited him and prayed and put his hands on him, healed him. And when this had taken place, the rest of the people on the island who had diseases also came and were cured. They also honored us greatly. And when we were about to sail, they put on board whatever we needed. Now, this is a great example where the brother just asks, how come the gospel was not preached to these people? The gospel is also in demonstration of power. That's what Paul says, right? And or we can see that this wasn't the time for them to receive that information. Very similar to when Yeshua was walking around, he ain't preached the gospel to no Gentile. Jesus demonstrated, like Paul just did, the power of the kingdom to come. That's why they was able to do these signs, miracles, and wonders. It was just a demonstration that in the kingdom to come, there's no sickness, there's no disease, there's no weeping. So they're bringing good news, they're bringing joy, they're bringing healing, so they can get a sample of the kingdom to come. That is supposed to drive those people to want to know, what is that gospel? What is that good news? How do I see covenant with Yah and Yeshua? So when Jesus was on the scene, he didn't preach the gospel to no Gentiles. He only came to his own. In this case, they were shipwrecked. This wasn't even intended on their route to go bring the gospel to. These people show hospitality, which means Yah is going to consider them. The reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because they were inhospitable. When those strangers came to the gate, only Lot was there. Nobody from the rest of the town city came. But when they brought those strangers into their house, Lot brought them into his house. Then the whole city came. And they wanted to take those men out of their house. When it was Lot's role to protect those men who were in his custody, in his care. So you start to get abominations as a result of inhospitality. These people show hospitality. They took care of the poor, of the needy, the oppressed. Yah will remember them. How do we know? Let's get into the scripture and see what the scripture says. Let's see what Yeshua says himself. Matthew chapter 25, verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer him, truly, truly, I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these my brothers, who Paul would be, you did it to me. They're getting salvation. Again, they were superstitious, they were super religious, right? They believed in a God called justice, but they saw whoever was empowering this guy, who they saw as a God, Paul, is greater than their God justice, because he overcame death when he should have been dead. And he healed somebody that was sick. So they gave them everything they needed, took them in. Yeshua says, when the Son of Man sits on his throne of glory, because there's a Son of Man to come, and there's a Son of Man on earth. Just like Ezekiel was called the Son of Man. But there's also a Son of Man that comes. He's talking about the Son of Man to come. When he judges the sheep that he's going to separate from the goats, because y'all did this to me, because you're giving me hospitality. I'm telling y'all, it's all about hospitality. That's why our chapter launches, when y'all come in, we give you almonds and we give you pistachios. We give you a gift of hospitality to welcome you in our presence. Put this custom back into the community. Because when Joseph, when he was vizier, sent his brothers back to his father, and they told their father what had happened in Egypt with Joseph, they didn't know it was Joseph yet. He says, hey, make sure you give them the gift to this vizier, the choicest items in the land. And he named pistachios and almonds as two of those many choice items. That's hospitality. So because they've given hospitality, because Paul demonstrated the power that of the kingdom to come, they will be saved, because they took in those who are the least of the brothers of the Son of Man, who we know is going to be the King of Israel. So hopefully that answers your question, or begins to answer your question, sets you on the path to discover maybe some newfound insight that Yah will give to you. All right. Okay. All right. Let me see. Thank you so much for the donation, Morris. Hey, Devon, do you know Kru or Atete people in West Africa? Do you know any history about them? I've covered ground on that years ago. I do have resources on the Patreon that goes into those tribes as well. So if you are interested in that, go on the Patreon, type in Africa or African, and look at all of our the resources that go to various ethnic groups that are in West Africa. And we cover those groups as well. The Kru, I know for sure. The Ateke, not too familiar with that group, but the Kru, I am familiar with. So if you are interested in it, we got resources on there that will give you more detail. If you can't find it on the Patreon, email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and we'll get you a source. Okay, brother? And thank you for the donation, Morris. I appreciate it. All right. Let me see. I can't find the silver scroll on Patreon. What do you mean by that, unknown L? When you say you can't find the silver scroll, let me know, brother. What you mean by that? Let me know so I can help. All right. So, brother, my question is: the Gentiles that happen to make it into the kingdom, are they going to be given the same opportunity to leave after 6 years, as in the scriptures? I'm not sure what you mean by 6 years, brother. Can you give me a book, chapter, verse, a BCV citation for the 6 years in scripture? Because this righteous remnant that cleaves unto the house of Israel, in Isaiah chapter 56, Yah says that he would give them some special reward for doing so. In his house of prayer, he would give them an everlasting name, etc. So the idea is that these Gentiles are rejecting their inheritance, their patron deity, their culture and customs to cleave unto Israel, right? So for the most part, they are looking to stay, unlike Israel, who gets it by inheritance and rejects it, right? So if you give me something for that, let me know so I can see the 6 years that you're talking about. I would like to know how to calculate first fruits, and are there 3 first fruits, one for Passover, one for Pentecost, and one for Tabernacle? So according to the text, there's 1 first fruits, but first fruits are also given during these other 2, I would say 2, Pentecost and Tabernacle. But let's look at first fruits real quick, right? Let's get to let me go back here. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. All right. So the feast of first fruits, if that's what you're referring to, because you have first fruits that are given, and you have the feast of first fruits, where you actually have a feast around the giving of the first fruits that come from the harvest, from the spring harvest. And it says, and Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the people of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land that I give you and reap this harvest, you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. And you shall wave the sheep before Yah, so that you may be accepted. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. So this is the Sabbath after your first week of unleavened bread. So after unleavened bread, whatever day unleavened bread lands on, that following Sabbath is when this happens. And that following Sunday, you count 7 weeks from there, 50 days from there. Well, 50 days from that Sabbath, that'll give you 7 weeks plus an extra day, which would be a Sunday. And that Sunday will give you that Shavuot, right? But the feast of first fruits happens the Sabbath after the week of unleavened bread. And it says, on the day when you wave the sheaf, you shall offer a male lamb a year old without blemish as a burnt offering to Yah. And the grain offering with it shall be 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, a food offering to Yah with a pleasing aroma. And the drink offering with it shall be of wine, 1/4 of hin. And you shall eat neither bread nor grain parched or fresh until this same day, until you have brought the offering to your power. It is a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings, right? Then it talks about the Feast of Weeks, where we do have the term first fruits that are mentioned there. So let's get to it in verse 17. And verse 15 shall count 7 weeks from the day after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. You shall count 50 days to the day after the 7th Sabbath. Then you shall present a grain offering of new grain to Yah. You shall bring from your dwelling places 2 loaves of bread to be waved, made of 2/10 of an ephah. They shall be of fine flour, and they shall be baked with leaven as first fruits to Yah. So the term first fruits is mentioned here, but this is not talking about a separate feast that aligns with the Feast of Weeks. The Feast of First Fruits occurs before the Feast of Weeks and after the week of unleavened bread. That's when you have a feast. This is inclusive of the Feast of Weeks. So if you want to say it's a kind of Feast of Weeks, is a kind of first fruits feast, okay, that's fine. But it's not separate and distinct like there's one that precedes or succeeds every one of the major feasts, or the major 3 feasts that men are to appear before Yah. That's the text says. All right. So again, that's where you get the word first fruits. So now if we take first fruits here, we take first fruits, paste it, and look up first fruits, right? Let's go down to trumpets. No first fruits here. Atonement, no first fruits. But the Feast of Booths, we don't have the word first fruits there either. So we only have first fruits. If we scroll up, we have first fruits here for the Feast of First Fruits was given. And the reason why it's saying that is because after the week of unleavened bread commences, then that harvest, the harvest that's ripe for mostly wheat and for fruit begins to appear. So you're able to give that up during this time to Yah. So it's also in the storehouse. And then by the time you get to Shavuot, this is when you're in prime fruit season. And those are given, whether they are typically ephah, which is flour, is given as a first fruit. And sometimes fruit and grains as well will be given as well. This is what this represents. This does not mean it's a separate and distinct feast that precedes, well, technically it precedes Feast of Weeks, but that precedes, let's say, Passover unleavened bread. It succeeds it, and it precedes the Feast of Weeks, but there's no other first fruits mentioned after that, because by the time you get to the fall, it's the turn of the year. So during the turn of the year, you're typically trying to collect everything from the inside off the wine press and the threshing floor and bring them inside for storage because of the wintry rainy season that's about to occur. Right? So hopefully that begins to help. All right. Okay. Now, Brandon Blackwell, I agree. We do need that form of healing. However, I believe in cessationism. So cessationism typically is the doctrine that is the majority of the sign, miracles, and wonders that occurred during this first century was there to establish the ecclesia. Once the ecclesia was established, then there's no need for these signs, miracles, and wonders of this capacity and of this frequency and of this intensity. But there's alternatives that we can use to heal people, right? So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. So those who there's some scholars, right, that say that Paul in the beginning of his ministry, as we see, was doing all these miracle signs and wonders, right? But in the latter end, because remember, people were taking handkerchiefs that Paul touched and was getting healed and all of that, right? Even with Peter, he would walk by, his shadow would heal people, right? But towards the latter end of their ministry, there's no mention about them having these supernatural powers. We don't see Peter in any of his epistles talking about healing people, all right? And Paul, at the tail end of his epistles, he couldn't even heal Timothy. He had to give Timothy a remedy for healing. He could have easily, along with the letter, touched the handkerchief and send that with the letter. Timothy could have touched it and been healed, but something happened. For some reason, Paul was unable to do that. He had to give him a remedy. So what happens is the remedy supersedes the healing aspect, laying on hands, handkerchiefs, and all of that. And now we get into remedies. He says, mix a little wine with water for thy stomach's infirmities. He didn't give him a handkerchief. He didn't give him a trinket or anything else that could heal him, like he was doing early in his ministry. So once his ministry was pretty much done, because by the time he's writing these pastoral epistles, Paul's on the verge of getting killed, right? But towards the end of his ministry, it was no longer about signs, miracles, and wonders, right? In regards to healing now, that's superseded by remedies, okay? And that's where we pick up today. So I'm not saying that Yah can't divinely intervene and heal somebody. What I'm saying is the likelihood of that happening is very slim. And if we're going to use the scripture as a point of reference, then because the ecclesia has already been established, now we should work with remedies. And we should give these remedy suggestions to people who are sick for healing. So that's my position on that. All right. So Hebrew Nabi Institute. So on top of the silver scrolls, you can also have a mezuzah. So mezuzah is what you're gonna. It's a post that you put on the side of your door post that will have a scroll inside of it. Typically, it's Deuteronomy chapter 6. It could be Numbers chapter 6 as well. And you'll put this at the doorpost. So good point. So let me say this to you, right? Because I guess it's relevant, right? So how many of y'all seen the movie Sinners? Type 1. Whoever saw the movie Sinners, type 1. Okay. And this is a long-standing tradition in regards to the myth of vampires, that vampires cannot enter into a home unless they are invited. It's the same thing in regards to Israel. A great example of this is Hezekiah. Let me show you. Let me show you. Let me pull it up for you. Hold on one second. Let's get Isaiah chapter 39. Let me get 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 12. Let's do that. Let's get 2 Kings 20 and verse 12. All right. Not yet. Okay. A lot of y'all didn't see it. All right. Well, I saw it. Let me show you this. Hezekiah. This is about Hezekiah, 2 Kings chapter 20. At the time when Merodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent envoys with letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah welcomed them, and he showed them all his treasure house, the silver, the gold, the spices, the precious oil, his armory, all that was found in his storehouses. There was nothing in his house or in all the realm that Hezekiah did not show them. Then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and said to him, "What did these men say? And from where did they come to you?" So now what Hezekiah should have did was consulted Isaiah, who was an oracle of Yah, to get a word on whether or not he should have done this. And then it says, Hezekiah says, "They have come from a far country, from Babylon." He said, "What have they seen in your house?" And Hezekiah answered, "They have seen all that is in my house. There is nothing in my storehouses that I did not show them." Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, "Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house and that which your fathers have stored up to this day shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left." What is the principle here? The principle is no evil can come upon you as long as you're discreet about your realm in which you have dominion over. What do we mean by that, Divine? If you invite any old person into your house, if you invite items into your house that y'all know that are votive offerings, that are things that do not bring blessings but may bring curses, if you're inviting something into your house, especially a person, right? Spirits come through people, right? They can also come on their own as well. But when you invite these things into your house, you will lose everything to it. When you show people all the intimate parts of your domain or your realm, you have forfeited all that Yah has given you. Your house is your domain. Your house is a sanctuary of Yah. That's why when we have these things here, this is our mobile protection while we're moving, right? While we're going about outside the realm of our house. But while we're in our house, on our doorposts, we have the Mezuzah. That lets any entity, any person, any spirit, any negative energy know that you're about to cross the threshold of Yah and you're about to enter his sanctuary. It's supposed to repel. That's why when I have guests that are not in the truth come to my house, I say, "Oh, you see this Mezuzah here? You see this Mezuzah? You know what that is?" And that tell them about it. You know, I've had a guest that did not want to come to my house because of that. I said, "Thank you, Yah." I don't know what they had on them. They was about to do some crazy turmoil in my home. But they see it, they respect it, they understand it. Spirits do as well. Negative energy does as well. So that mezuzah is there to protect the doorposts, similar to like the blood on the doorposts during Passover. So the reason why I bring up the movie Sinners, because in the movie Sinners, and I don't want to spoil it, but I'm gonna give you a small spoiler. In the movie Sinners, it was about vampires. You know this by watching the trailers, right? And the vampires could not come in past the threshold of the doorpost or the lintel unless they were invited. When you invite the enemy into your home, knowing that this is the enemy, you have forfeited everything. If you have not consulted Yah, whether or not you should invite a particular person or purchase an item or a trinket or something and bring it into your household, that you don't know what spirits is attached to it, what other deities attached to it. If you don't consult Yah first before you do that, then you have forfeited everything to whatever that spirit, entity, or person is. It's almost like what we call squatters' rights. When you invite somebody illegally into your home and they're there for X amount of time, they now have rights to that place, that property. You cannot forcibly kick them out. The police will not remove them. You got to go to court, civil court, and you got to get them tenant landlord court to get them removed out your house. So that is how we deal with this. That's how we deal with this. So you want to make sure that you have the mezuzahs on your doorposts, and on top of the mezuzahs on your. If you're interested in mezuzahs, let me know, because we sell them too. We have mezuzahs as well. Again, all of this goes back to our ancient culture. Mezuzah goes back to the pre-exilic period, right? Now today it has a modern day Jewish spin on it, but it goes back to an ancient Israelite pre-exilic custom. It is to protect the doorposts, and that custom comes from the blood on the doorpost from the Exodus. So you want to safeguard the entryway to your home, the threshold of your domain, right? Which is your gate. You don't want to invite any and everybody in or anything in. And then also mobile, as you're moving, you want to protect your person, because you are a mobile sanctuary of Yah. His Ruach is in you. You're his temple, the one made without hands. And then you have your home, which becomes a temple, because he says in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 11, that I have, in the places where I scattered them, I have been a sanctuary amongst them. So when you proclaim and take dominion over your castle, your temple, your palace, which is your home, you fortify it so that any and everything don't come in. Okay. All right. So hopefully that answers your question, and that gives you a good example. So Hebrew Navi Institute, if you need the mezuzah, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and we'll hook you up. Okay, brother? All right. Hey, you can't always leave. You can't always make your home an open house. You don't know who's coming in and what they're bringing in coming into that home. Sometimes you may need to pray with them and have them see the mezuzah or the silver scroll before they enter into your home, and make sure they understand that home is Yah's sanctuary. My family respects that. Most of my circle are Israelites, but I have some people outside of that as well. They respect that. They're not coming in with negative energy. They know what time it is. We set the stage already. Me and my household, we will serve Yah. That's the deal. I used to have a floor mat that said that, so they understood when they get there, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I'm telling you, people with negative intentions, they don't like that type of stuff. It's a whole phenomenon behind that science. They just don't, because a lot of people inherently are superstitious. All right, so anyway, let me see. Truth, more truth, shalom. Divine, you mentioned the Trinity being scripturally used in John 1:1 as the word came from where again? No. So I don't subscribe to the Trinity. But my opponents who are Trinitarians, they see the Trinity in John chapter 1, verse 1. I do not see the Trinity in John chapter 1, verse 1. I broke down John chapter 1, verse 1 grammatically, contextually, historically. I guess I can sum it up here. I don't see the Trinity in John chapter 1, verse 1. The text says, in the beginning was the word. Key thing is the beginning, arche. What is arche is? When I do the lesson on Colossians to disprove the pre-existence of Yeshua Bar Yosef, we're going to get into this word arche. Arche can mean ancient, can mean a beginning, but it can also mean a domain. And we are one rules. That's deep. I'm going to get into that when I do the Colossians lecture. I'm going to bring this out. But in the beginning, what beginning? Was the word. Okay. Let me explain what that logos is. When you look at the word logos from a Hellenistic Jewish perspective, I'm saying Jewish perspective, you'll see that they understand that logos to be the thought, the mind, the will, the reason of the deity. It's an instrument that reveals its creative power and its communicative power. That's what the word is. It's not a separate person. The reason why Trinitarians say it's a person is because they look at the pronouns he. Well, logos is a masculine noun, so you can describe it with a pronoun, pronomial, a masculine pronomial he, or you can also describe it with the neuter. That's it. But if this is a prologue using personification as literary device to explain this word, because it's putting the importance on this instrument of Yah that he put into Yeshua when it became flesh, he put the same instrument in the prophets of old, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. But in the last days, he fused it into his son, which is Yeshua Bar Yosef. In the beginning, what beginning we talking about was the word, because if Trinitarians believe that he was eternally begotten of the Father, or he was an eternal partner with the Father, or a second person who both shared the same homoousia, the same substance as the Father, which is Yahweh being the substance, and it's streaming into or being revealed as two different people. They don't like the word people, but more than one person is people. Two persons, and you got the third person, the spirit here, then it should be no beginning. What do you mean beginning? At what beginning are you talking about? How could there be a beginning if he's eternally begotten? That means there's no beginning. But if you translate arche as beginning, now we have a conversation we got to deal with. And the word was God. So the text says, in the beginning was the word, and the word was face to face with God. Excuse me, let's do that there. And the word was face to face, pros theon, was facing God. So that means he had an instrument there with him that he can face. Just like my hand can be an instrument when I use it to do stuff, and my thoughts and my wills is expressed through these hands when I want to make stuff. You know, and let's say that I couldn't speak, I was doing sign language, I use my hands as an instrument to communicate. So Yah's using his hands. This is what we call the logos, that is able to materially in the physical realm express his will, his thoughts, his mind. That's what that word is the instrument that does this. And this is broken down by Philos of Alexandria. He breaks this down. He's a Jew who was indoctrinated as a Hellenized individual. He was Hellenized because he was in Alexandria, which was a Hellenized hub for the Greeks. And he understood the Torah through the lens of Hellenism, right? And if this text in John 1:1 is being written as a prologue by a Jew in Greek, then they would share the same affinity in understanding the term logos from the same lens that was understood by Philos of Alexandria. So beginning was the word, right? What beginning? That's the first question, right? Let me bring it there real quick. And the word was facing God, pros theon. So theon indicates an accusative, a recipient, okay? The word has the article that precedes it, right? The word was facing God, pros theon. So the word is the nominative. Theon is the accusative. It's receiving whatever action, which is the facing towards, right? It's the recipient of the facing towards that the word is doing. and the word was God. So when you see this last clause and the word was God, it will make you think that, oh, well, the word was a person because he's being called God. That's not what the Greek says. The Greek says, and God was the word, because he is the word. He is his thoughts, his mind, his reason. He is the instrument that he used so that him and his supernatural ethereal realm can now reach down into the material realm and create and communicate. That's what the word is. It's an instrument to communicate, instrument to create, instrument to bring about things. Okay? It is not a separate person. But when you get to verse 2, it says, he was in the beginning with God. Oh, you see who? The masculine pronominal is there. Wait, slow down. This is personification. This is the type of lyric device being used here. It's a prologue. This language is not used in the rest of the narrative after verse 18. Very similar to when we get to Proverbs chapter 8, we see that Chokhmah is personified and called a she. But no monotheist believes that there's a woman, a feminine deity up there with Yahweh. Nobody believes that. But he uses the same language that we see here in the prologue of John chapter 1, verses 1 to 18. All of this is, you see a lot of figurative language, heavy figurative language used here, heavy personification used here. He is called the he because he's putting emphasis on the instrument of Yah. And that instrument of Yah, how it fuses with the flesh and is moving about with the flesh. That's why. It's not a separate person. The word person is not even used here. Person has to be implied because of usage of the masculine pronomen. However, the same thing is used in the feminine pronominal when we get to Chokhmah in the book of Proverbs chapter 8. The text says in Proverbs chapter 8 that he possessed me in the beginning. Well, that same language, he possessed me, is used in the book of Ruth when Boaz possessed Ruth and took her as his wife. Are we saying that Yah married Chokhmah and that was his wife? Monotheists wouldn't say that. Now, for the record, I'm not a monotheist. I'm not a monotheist because the ancient pre-exilic Israelites did not subscribe to monotheism, nor is monotheism taught in the Torah. Monotheism doesn't start coming about, the concept of monotheism doesn't start coming about until the reforms of Hezekiah, Josiah, and there's allusions to it in the book of Isaiah. But this is later on in history. You got henotheism or henotheism. Henotheism states that there's multiple powers, but you single one out to be supreme. Israelite culture had conditional henotheism. And that, when I say conditional, meaning it's distinct from the other forms of henotheism, because in other forms of henotheism, even though you have one that's supreme, another deity can vie for that supremacy, can vie for that throne. We see that in Ugaritic, in the Epic of Baal. We see that in Kemet, in the Ennead, and the Okdad, right? We see this in other places as well, amongst the Anunnaki, right? But in the scriptures, there's only one supreme deity. Nobody vies for his throne. He has no equal, right? No other deity can do what he can do. And he expresses this explicitly in the book of Isaiah. He can bring about whatever he wills. No other deity can do that, right? So henotheism is what the ancient pre-exilic Israelites held to, not monotheism. Monotheism is a more modern concept. Because, Akhenaten was the first monotheist. That's a lie. Akhenaten was a henotheist. He was not a monotheist. He singled out Aten to be his supreme power, but he knew other powers existed. He didn't destroy all the other temples of all the other deities. He didn't do that. That's typically what you would do in the event that you want to prove there's only one God. Some people say that Moses and the Israelites were just some ex-priests and some ex-people that branched off during the Amarna period, right, from what Akhenaten was teaching with Atenism, and they started their own cult that was monotheist. But the problem is Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh is not seen in those areas of those temples. He's not even seen in Amarna. There's no Yahweh in Amarna. So where did Yahweh come from? We know, according to archaeology, that Yahweh comes from the Transjordan region. That's not in Kemet. And when we discover Kemet's acknowledgement of Yod-Heh-Wav, it's in the Amarna West Temple and the Temple of Soleb. These are other sites where Yod-Heh-Wav was recognized, not in the heart of Kemet. So with that being said, what I'm simply saying is, in John chapter 1, this is not teaching the Trinity. It is not teaching that there are three persons that share the same substance. It is personifying the word as a he, but that's because it's figurative language. And the literary device being used is personification and or anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism is when you attribute human attributes to something that is non-human. That is what we're seeing here. And they're doing this so that way they can sensitize the nominative so we can understand and relate. So if we can't understand and relate to it, then it's of no value. And the way that we can understand and relate to this nominative being the Logos is when it's embodied in Yeshua, because he's there as a power to exegete the Father, right? To reveal the Father. That's what his role is, to reveal the Father to a people who have strayed away from the Father. Okay. That's correct. The Spirit of God, that means it's possessed by Yah. That's his spirit. So you have his word and his spirit. Those are all Yah. They're not two other distinct persons. So zeal, we don't subscribe to the 12 tribes chart over here. Okay? We don't subscribe to that over here. All right. So I just want to make that clear to you. Now, could some Hispanics, Native Americans, and blacks be Israelites? Yes, they can, but not according to a 12 tribe chart. We deal with those on a case-by-case basis. So I just want to make sure I share that with you and you're aware of that. All right, so cool. I know you don't subscribe to the Trinity. Sorry for not articulating my question better, but I do not adhere to it either. So it was created at the Council of Nicaea. No, the Trinity was not created at the Council of Nicaea. Trinitas, which is going to be your Latin variant for Trinity, was first ascribed to Valentius, who was a Gnostic heretic. Okay. And then eventually it was picked up and adopted by Tertullian, who further matured the doctrine, but he was a subordinate, which means he believed that the Son emanated from the Father. The Son was brought forth from the Father, right? They share the same substance, but the Father outranks the Son. The Trinitarianism that is taught today does not show rank. The only time rank is applied is when the Son of God, the God the Son, chose to become human or take on flesh. He didn't cease to be God, but took on flesh and subordinated himself to the Father. But the substance that was in him that was divine was equal to the Father. So Tertullian took the doctrine, matured it, and then the ball was passed, and it continued to mature. By the time we got to the Council of Nicaea, it was a matured theology, where you have Arius and Athanasius were the two bishops that were going head to head in regards to how the Son should be identified. They didn't even care about the Spirit in there. Spirit was an afterthought. He wasn't developed as a person equal to the Father and the Son fully until a later council. Okay, so hopefully that explains that. So when it says the Word became flesh, could you explain that? Yes. So this is how we explain the Word becoming flesh. We go to Hebrews chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Long ago, at many times in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. When we get into these prepositions, by, and we see what those things are, especially when we go into the Colossians study, again, only on Patreon. So sign up for the Patreon, www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect. Sign up for the $20 tier so you can get the drop for this Colossians study that we're doing, dealing with Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 to 19. And we're going to see, is this teaching pre-existence? And I'm telling you it's not. When we see these words like by, spoken to the fathers by, that preposition is in, right here, in the prophets. He has spoken to the fathers in the prophets. Who Theos was in the prophets speaking. And then we get, that's why I say you gotta look at these prepositions. That could be misleading in the translation. Verse 2, but in these last days he has spoken to us by his son. Hebrews chapter 2. In these last days he has spoken to us where? In his, you see this, the same method, same method, same method, same method. In Huyo, in son. He has spoken to us in son, the same way he has spoken to us in the prophets, fathers. That's the word becoming flesh. The word comes in and dwells in the person. The difference is with Yeshua, he got it at birth, and it stayed with him until death, and posthumous, it merged with him. That didn't happen to the other prophets of old. So that's the distinction. When it says it became flesh, it transitioned, the word transitioned from one state to another state, from an ethereal, supernatural, ontological state to a state where it can work through physics and in the material world, right? Through a material, physical being, what we call an oracle. So when the word comes in flesh, it creates an oracle. But in the book of John, the book of John does not teach the virgin birth. So then the question is, at what point did this word become flesh? And that's why those of us who subscribe to the historical perspective by way of Jewish Christians and how they saw it, it was through baptism, or a doctrine called adoptionism, which was called heretical by church fathers, who were not Jews, by the way. These were not Jews who called other Jews heretical for teaching this. These were non-Jews who did not walk with Yeshua, did not have ancestors who walked with Yeshua, calling those who did walk with Yeshua and had ancestors that walked with Yeshua heretical. So when we look at John chapter 1, keep John chapter 1, and we go down, verse 29 says, then the next day he saw Yeshua coming toward him and said, behold, the Lamb of God who take away the sin of the world. This is he of whom I said, after me comes a man who ranks before me. That's misleading. Ranks before me. That word before is bad, man. And when we go into Colossians, I'm going to show you that's bad. Because he was before me. No, that's talking about rank. He outranked me. Because he was predestined to do what he's doing before I was even thought of. I myself did not know him, but for this purpose I came baptized in water, that he might be revealed to all nations, all people. No, be revealed to Israel. And John bore witness. I saw the Spirit descend from heaven like a dove, and it remained on him. I myself did not know him, but he who sent me to baptize with water said to me, he on whom you see the Spirit descend and remain, this is he who baptizes with the Ruach HaKodesh. And I have seen and have borne witness that this is the Son of God. This is the word becoming flesh. If it means something other than that, you got to show me in the book of John. Show me the narrative of John where the word becoming flesh occurs at any other point according to the book of John. So Yeshua was prophesied to his parents by means of an angel, a messenger, Malek, to his parents. He's prophesied. This is what he would do. He would be the Son of God, etc., etc. So when he was born, just like he told Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 5, how Yah forms prophet. Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 5. He says, Verse 4. Now the word of Yah came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. So before you're formed in the womb, Yah already knows you. Does that mean that you pre-existed as some kind of divine spark in eternity? Some people teach that doctrine, but that's not what the text is teaching. The text does not teach that type of doctrine. There's no pre-existence in the Tanakh in regards to human beings. No pre-existence. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. So Yeshua was already predestined. He was already known, and he was already consecrated. That's why we get to John chapter 17. He says, give me the glory that I had with thee before the world was. That glory is what he crowned him with, because he knew him before he formed him in the womb. Didn't mean that he was a person sitting up there with the Father, chilling in eternity. So Yah set aside the son in the womb of Mary and groomed him from birth. When he was 12, he said, did you not know I was being about my father's business? And he said, father's business, or my father's house. This is where I'm supposed to be. He acknowledged him as his father. We don't see that anywhere else in Tanakh. It's a unique relationship that he had with Yah as a child growing up. And then when he got baptized, he went through a mikvah. Now the Spirit was on him and remained on him. That was a sign to John that he is the Son of God. That's when the Word indwelt the flesh. According to the book of John, chapter 1, there's no virgin birth there. No nativity narrative there either. Okay. No problem, my brother. No problem. Yes. So my perspective on that, Emmanuel, is that when these groups were exiting out of Egypt, not 3 million, under 90,000 of them exited out of Egypt and came into Canaan and settled in the Century Hill countryside. All right. They did not have a distinct identity until the monarchy was formed. Okay. They all was the same chiefdom, and they did have distinctions among them, but the literature is right in hindsight, right? Defining them as separate individual tribes in hindsight, right? But at the time, historically, an ethnogenesis occurred where each tribe identified a distinctness between themselves and formulated what we call the 12 tribes of Israel today, right? And then a narrative was formulated behind this identity through a social memory and oral tradition amongst those tribes that then point back to what we see in the book of Bereshit or Genesis, right? So hopefully that answers the question. But that's just, I actually addressed this in a lecture called Crows on the Straw Man. I think I addressed it in Crows on the Straw Man. So go check that out. Or if you have any other questions, just email me, text me, or call me, brother. All right. No problem. And that's also like one of the non-biblical explanations for the 12 tribe theory, right? So this, like I told you, I walked the middle line between conservative and liberal. I walk right in the middle. Take from this, take from that, find the bridge in the middle. And there's ways you can harmonize archaeology with the text. When you understand what the purpose of the text is and what archaeology shows, there's a middle ground that explains things that are unexplainable both ways. So archaeology cannot explain everything, which is what we call concrete evidence. And then we have abstract evidence, which is something that's written, thoughts put on paper, right? And then there are things that are gaps in there, gaps in archaeological record, but you can use archaeology to fill in the gaps in the written record and use the written record to fill in gaps in the archaeological record. So that's always my approach when it comes to understanding the cultural vantage point of the development of Israel, right? And how they came to be, right? All right. So let me see. Yes, cultural background, study Bible definitely does give you insight on a lot of these in the footnotes. All right. The book of Enoch blows his doctrine away. Dead Sea Scrolls. We're the sons of Zadok. You didn't even spell that right. Not Essenes. So, School of Skills, you come on here all the time. Not every time, but all the time. You come on here and you say this, and we offer you to come on camera and discuss it, and you never do. So, you're just saying emptiness right now until you decide to come on here and have a discussion, civil discussion, amicable discussion about whatever it is that you're saying in the chat. I'm trying to be respectful. Right? Because I try to be respectful, but you never want to join and have that conversation. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you so much. And you can keep doing that, Emmanuel. Appreciate it. All right. So Esther Israel. Yes, that's the Mezuzah. Right. Let me type that in here. All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 9. So it says, this is from the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, when you rise. So also, when you have a spirit in your house, an evil spirit, or a person with ill intentions, or even energy, when you do this, when you, in the words that I command to you, they shall be in. When the words are on your heart, when you teach them to your children, when you talk of them, when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise. Whenever you have Yah, statutes, laws, and commandments, right, within your realm of domain, that would also dispel anything that finds its way in. But if you're not doing that, and you have nothing but secular conversations in your household with secular guests that may have ill intentions, right, and know nothing about what you stand on, then you're inviting a possibility of wickedness into your home. Verse 8, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand. You know that binding a sign on your hand, you know that is one of the reasons why the silver scrolls exist. The silver scrolls were on silver parchment. They were rolled up. They were placed in an amulet and were worn on the wrist, because they're binding this to the wrist. It's a reminder. God's blessing is a reminder to keep his statute, laws, and commandments. That's how you keep his blessings. His blessing, his countenance shines upon you when you are obedient and keep what he's given you or commanded you to do. You shall bind them in your hand. They shall be frontlets between your eyes. Right? This is where we get the Jewish customs from. But verse 9 says, you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. This is where the Mezuzah comes into play, because you have to protect the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Now, most communities, right, especially the community I live in, this is not a Torah-based community, right? I live in a community with about 90% African Americans in an upper middle class neighborhood, right? And as far as I know, we're the only Israelite family in this whole household. And I know, and it's in this neighborhood, and I know because when Halloween comes by, when Thanksgiving comes by, when Christmas comes by, when New Year's comes by, when Easter comes by, we see most of the houses, not all of them, but most of the houses have all these decorations. That's how I know they're not keeping these statutes, laws, and commandments. But on our house, we want to make sure that we have something to let the public know that we serve Yah. And when you come in my house, that's the conversation. Besides, because, we could talk about secular things as well. Of course, we talk about secular things with our guests, but we always mention something about Yah and the statutes, laws, and commandments. And if we see uneasiness, discomfort, then we know, okay, hey, maybe it's time for you to go. Because you shouldn't feel uneasy and discomfort if we're speaking about Yah and his statutes, laws, and commandments. If you do, then maybe you shouldn't be here. But this is where the origin, the provenance of your mezuzah comes from, right? If anybody's interested in, again, just email us, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and we'll be able to hook you up with some if you are interested in one. All right. All right. So with that being said, family, we're coming on a little over 2 hours, so I'm going to close up. I think we had a pretty good session with this Q&A. We dealt with the nonsense from Ankaket, Anka West, the real black atheist. We dealt with his nonsense, trying to belittle the sale of these silver scrolls, which is a historical piece, a replica that connects us back to the ancient pre-Israelite culture. We answered a plethora of different questions on various subject matters, and imparted some wisdom, some insight, some edification, and some empowerment to you all. I pray that the Most High will continue to shine his countenance upon you, that his Ruach HaKodesh will continue to reside and dwell within you and in your household and amongst your family. I always tell you all the time, when you come into the Shabbat, according to the book of Jeremiah, you have to unburden yourself. The best way to do that in 2025 is through biblically prescribed meditation, which is musing over your murmurs at any moment to melodies. If you want to know more about what that is, watch the lecture called Meditation by the Book, okay, by Divine Prospect, and we'll show you how to unburden yourself, how to dispense and filter all the junk that's in you, so that you can be clear, you can be filled by Yah, and you can come into the Sabbath unburdened and receive that all that Yah has with you, because you're sharing in his rest. It's not just yours. You're sharing in his rest. He's given man, the Son of Man, human beings, the opportunity to own part of the Sabbath. Okay? So rest this Shabbat, reflect on Yah, refresh yourselves, and I will continue to pray for you all as you pray for me. Okay? And again, we talked about what prayer is on this channel, formulate prayer. We went into that before. I know you also want to lecture on that. I'm working on it, right? I've done it. It's about 50% done. Need to finish that one too if you're interested in it. But also, we have Aisha Cole's putting the link for it in the chat if you're interested in actually watching that lecture. All right, so let us know how you feel about it, what it is. Shout out to the Archer. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you coming here. My brother Stacks 2296. Shalom. And I think that's everybody else last minute that came in. I think I covered everybody. Yeah, I think we got everybody. Okay. All right, family. I love y'all. Thank you for watching. Yes, if you want to go watch this on the replay, please do so. There's also a feature called Applause, where if you do want to donate directly to the channel, that feature should be there, where the like, the share, and all those other buttons are at. Otherwise, you can look at the description below. There's several ways in which you can share and donate to the ministry. Also, if you want to, take part of any of the programs, services, and products that we have some of those in the chat and how to get that. Others, if you're inquiring about something that's been mentioned on this live stream, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. All right. If you want to sign up to be part of KHM and get intertwined with the community work that we're doing, the link is in the description below as well. And if you're interested in this, after this session, I will post the link for this in the description below. And if you want any one of these items, based on what we spoke about in regards to the historical significance, these replicas tie you back to the historical significance of the ancient pre-Israelite culture. The links are also in the description below or in the chat as we have gone through this session. Now, over here, our Shabbat starts at sunset, so feel free to make your purchases before the sun officially sets. All right, or you can wait till after the Sabbath, which is after sunset tomorrow, if you want to make said purchases. All right. But the key thing is come into the Sabbath unburdened. Make sure you put Yah first and give him his due. If you want to do minor recreational items, nothing in the scripture says you cannot do so, but you cannot do any servile work, and you cannot do any transactions on those days. So if your recreational activities involve those things, then you are to stay away from it. All right. Use that as a good rule of thumb to know how to have balance and not be over righteous in the actions in which you do, according to what Yah has commanded us to do, to keep this statute forever throughout all generations, the Bible says. All right. All right. Hebrew Nabi Institute. What you think about setting water for the spirit? I have no clue what you're referring to, brother. I have no clue what you're talking about. Can you please elaborate a little more on that? And I think I saw More Truth. You asked to be on the platform to chat. Let's do that on the next session. So we should have Freestyle Friday, same time next Friday. And my born day is that Saturday. Is that Sabbath? Is it the Sabbath? No, is that Sunday? So that Sunday is my born day, right? Not this Sunday. Next Sunday is my born day. All right. So I definitely want to have a session that Sunday night during that time to chat with y'all. All right. So Hebrew Navi Institute, can you please give me more detail on that? Thank you so much. Love is the way. Shabbat shalom to all the beloved children of the Most High Yah. Hope you all have a blessed and restful Shabbat. Yes, reset, recharge, refresh, and let's get back in the game. That's the purpose of the Shabbat, man. Yamya Ban Yasharala, thank you for joining us. Well, my brother. Hey, Hebrew Nabi Institute, can you give a little bit more detail? Otherwise, we're going to close out. All right. So I'm going to wait until I hear that. We're going to wait. And as always, death to dogma. These are some things that my daughters did. They said stuff from God. You know, we go over stuff like grass, water, lava. They put people are Yah's special creation. So they get this stuff in school because they go to an academy that teaches them all of this. And then at home, we reinforce it, right? Oh, okay. So water libations. Hey, if you're interested in that, let me share something with you. I actually have one of those on the page and a Patreon. Here's a link. If you're interested in water libations, here you go. I explain all of that in this video. It's right here. Right? Click on that link, watch the video, and I go into detail about water libations. But like Aishuko says, I also speak about libations on the channel. But that video right there is specifically dealing with that subject matter, and I actually show you how to do it. Right? So yeah, so hopefully that helps, brother. All right. But yes, we do water libations over here. All right. That's an ancient pre-Exilic Israelite custom, and we maintain it to this day. Me and my household do. And those who have learned it, they also do it as well. Just like we do lots as well. We keep talismans as well. This ties us back into our original culture that we had before religion took over and said all of that is taboo, all of that is bad, and tell us we can't do these things no more. All right. All right. So with that said, family, I love you. School is out for my daughters. They acting crazy. I don't know what's going on. Hey, get your sister. Let's say hi before we close out. They just because my Isha and my oldest son went to go get our little ones in daycare, and these two are here with me. Just what are y'all doing? Y'all can say hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Say shalom.
Shalom.
Still gotta get your hair done. Mm-hmm. All right, so
bye.
Say shalom.
Shalom.
All right. So with that said, family, I love you. From my family to yours, may Yah bless you and keep you, shine his countenance upon you. Make sure you are fortifying your threshold of your house, your home, your domain, protected at all costs. Make sure you talk about Yah while you lie down, while you rise up, while you go about the way. Make sure you're teaching it to your children as well, so you can sanctify your household, so they can be Yah's sanctuary while we're in exile. And when he reclaims us, we'll already be in right formation because we're keeping kingdom etiquette. That's going to prepare us for what to do when we meet the king. All right. So love you, family. Thank you for watching. See you on the next live stream. Peace and shalom.